In the late 19th century, as the news of the Cambridge Seven's devotion spread across England, the China Inland Mission, founded by Hudson Taylor, transformed from a seemingly small and obscure society into an organization pulsating with opportunity and challenge. Amidst the mounting needs and vast spiritual hunger in China's provinces, Hudson Taylor recognized that the current missionary force was insufficient to reach the millions who had never heard the gospel. In 1886, Taylor's heart was stirred to what many considered an audacious vision. He appealed to Christians throughout the West to raise up 100 new missionaries within 1 year. At that time, such a request seemed impossible. China was distant, dangerous, and foreign to Western eyes. Many were still haunted by stories of hardship, disease, and even martyrdom. Yet Hudson Taylor's faith was unwavering. He wrote a passionate letter calling for men and women who were willing to trust God, go to China, and live simply, relying on Christ rather than earthly comforts. The appeal resonated deeply. Young men and women responded from cities and villages, sensing God's leading. Prayer meetings spread, churches discussed the call, and families wept and rejoiced as sons and daughters prepared to sail for lands unknown. By the end of 1887, the vision had become reality. 102 new laborers, diverse in age and background, departed for China's interior. Some left behind prestigious careers, others gave up family comforts, but all shared the conviction that Christ's command to go into all the world was for them. The influx of missionaries resulted in the CIM growing rapidly. By 1891, nearly 500 missionaries were reaching across China. With new hands and hearts, schools and clinics were established, Bibles translated, and communities touched by the love of Christ. Even as trials came, sometimes in the form of sickness or opposition, the unwavering faith of this new generation continued to shine. The surge that began with the 100 carried through decades, giving rise to thousands throughout CIM's history. Their courage laid the foundation for a great harvest, even through times of crisis like the Boxer Rebellion. The obedience of a few blessed the lives of many, strengthening not only the missionary community in China, but inspiring believers worldwide. The lesson is clear. Faith that steps beyond comfort, trusting God for what seems impossible, can change nations. God's work done in God's way will never lack God's supply. In the burning summer of 1900, the northern provinces of China trembled with unrest. The Boxer Rebellion, fueled by a deep resentment of foreign influence and a desperate search for relief in the midst of drought and suffering, swept across the land. Its fury was quickly aimed at foreign missionaries, men and women who, like those of the China Inland Mission, CIM, had come to share the gospel and serve the Chinese people. In provinces like Shaanxi, wells ran dry and the fields yielded little. Rumors fed upon themselves. Foreigners brought misfortune, upset the gods, and their teachings turned children into strangers in their own land. In Taiyuan, the capital, Governor Yu Xian orchestrated a massacre that became a dark legend. Foreign missionaries and their children, gathered in the governor's courtyard, awaited a promised safe passage that would never come. One by one, they knelt and prayed, forgiving their executioners, offering their last breath to Christ. But one by one, they chose to die, the Son of God. They would not deny, like a great angelic choir sings, I can almost hear their voices ring, I pledge allegiance to the Lamb. The air was heavy with the cries of children, some too young to understand, others clutching Bibles. In the moment of death, their faith did not waver. For many, their final words were prayers for China. In Zhejiang, where the CIM family of Thompson and several female missionaries fled to the city of Kuzhou, the story was no less tragic. Denied protection by local officials, they found themselves surrounded by a hostile crowd. Their homes were set ablaze. Still, they sang hymns, voices rising above the roar, until fire and stone silenced them. Alongside foreign missionaries, a much larger number of Chinese Christians fell, faithful believers who refused to recant their trust in Jesus. In Manchuria, in Hebei, and Shandong, churches and schools built from decades of sacrifice were destroyed, and the ground was stained by the blood of thousands. Yet as the fires of hatred cooled, a remarkable spirit emerged. Dixon Edward Hoste, whom Hudson Taylor had chosen as his successor, led the surviving missionaries and grieving communities through a time of deep mourning. Many foreign powers demanded retribution, and the Chinese government offered financial compensation for every life lost and property destroyed. But Hoste, remembering the meekness of Christ, stunned both Western and Chinese observers. The CIM would accept nothing. "We came to serve Christ and the Chinese people, not to enrich ourselves from suffering," Hoste declared. Instead, the CIM missionaries mourned alongside the Chinese, comforted widows and orphans, and prayed for healing in the land. Where foreign flags could have been raised in victory, the cross was held up in meekness and humility. Hoste gathered the names of every CIM missionary and prayed for them, one by one, upholding each in the shadow of that great grief. The watching world was silent. Some said CIM had lost everything, their schools, their churches, their loved ones. But the Chinese saw something new: love without demand, humility and loss, steadfast hope in the God of resurrection. In the years that followed, the seeds sown in martyr tears blossomed into one of the greatest periods of growth in China's Christian history. Hoste's leadership guided CIM toward a new goal: a Chinese church able to govern, support, and propagate itself. He called for new missionaries to enter regions never before reached, believing that suffering could not stop the gospel. By 1926, thousands more took up the call, carrying stories of courage and grace to the furthest provinces. Thus, from blood and ashes, the witness of Christ emerged stronger than ever among the Chinese people. The meekness of the missionaries amidst tragedy, and the mercy they showed, became a testimony that endured long after the last foreign missionary left the land.